The Harrison family had always been about appearances. Our sprawling mansion in Greenwich, Connecticut, hosted some of the most exclusive social gatherings on the East Coast. My mother, Victoria Harrison, orchestrated these events with military precision, ensuring every detail screamed old money and influence. Tonight was no different, except it was about to become the most memorable dinner in Harrison family history. I adjusted my deliberately modest watch of $50 Timex that drove my mother crazy and parked my 2015 Toyota Camry behind my brother Marcus's Ferrari. The contrast made me smile. For 5 years I'd cultivated the image of the family's modest son, the one who never lived up to his potential. Mr. Alexander Harrison Thompson, our family butler, greeted me with a knowing look. He was the only one who knew the truth, having helped me maintain my cover all these years. "James is already here?" I asked, hearing loud laughter from the dining room. "Yes, sir. Mr. James and his wife arrived with their children 20 minutes ago. Your mother has been discussing your situation." I nodded, understanding perfectly what that meant. My older brother James, the successful investment banker, had probably been regaling everyone with stories of his latest deals, while my mother added helpful comments about how I could learn from his example. Walking into the dining room, I took in the familiar scene. James held court at one end of the table, his wife Sarah nodding admiringly at his every word. Their 3 children, whom my mother had already declared the future of the Harrison legacy, were absorbed in their tablets, probably playing games that cost more than my pretend monthly salary. "Alex." My mother's voice carried that special tone reserved for disappointment. "We were just discussing James's new summer home in the Hamptons. Isn't it wonderful how well he's doing?" I took my usual seat, the furthest from the head of the table. "Congratulations, James. Sounds impressive." James smirked. "You should come visit, little brother. Though maybe wait until you can afford a proper suit. That off-the-rack thing you're wearing, well, it doesn't quite match the neighborhood standards." What James didn't know was that my cheap suit was actually a masterpiece of deception. It had cost more than his car, custom made to look inexpensive. Everything about my appearance was carefully crafted to maintain my cover. "Now, James," our mother interrupted, "that's why we're having this family meeting. We need to discuss Alexander's situation." I took a sip of water, hiding my smile. My phone buzzed silently in my pocket, another alert from my real business empire. The Sunrise Resort Group had just completed its acquisition of the largest luxury hotel chain in Asia. My net worth had jumped another billion in the last hour. "Mom, I'm fine," I said, maintaining my practiced tone of mild defensiveness. "The small resort management job pays enough." "Enough," James scoffed. "You live in a 1-bedroom apartment and drive a car that's older than my son. That's not the Harrison way." If only they knew that my small resort management job was a carefully constructed facade. While they thought I was a middle manager at a modest mountain resort in Vermont, I had built Sunrise Resort Group into a $15 billion luxury hospitality empire. Every major resort acquisition in the past 5 years had been mine, operating through layers of holding companies and discrete subsidiaries. "That's exactly why we're here," Mother announced, straightening her Hermes scarf. "Your father and I have made a decision about the family trust." I noticed my father's slight wince. He sat quietly at the head of the table, as always letting Mother handle the difficult conversations. What they didn't know was that I'd already seen the trust documents. I owned the bank that managed it. "Given your limited success," Mother continued, "we've decided to adjust the inheritance structure. The bulk of the family fortune will be placed in trust for James's children. They clearly have the Harrison business acumen." Sarah, James's wife, couldn't contain her satisfied smile. "It's really for the best, Alex. The children need to maintain a certain lifestyle." I thought about the report sitting in my inbox. James's successful investment firm was leveraged to the hilt, making increasingly desperate plays to maintain their lifestyle. The Ferrari outside was leased, the Hamptons house mortgaged at 90%, and his children's expensive private school tuition was 3 months overdue. "We're not trying to be cruel," Mother added, misinterpreting my silence. "You'll still receive a small monthly stipend to maintain basic comforts." The timing was perfect. Thompson entered with an envelope, as we'd arranged. "Pardon the interruption, Mrs. Harrison, but this just arrived by courier. It's marked urgent for the family." Mother frowned. She hated having dinner interrupted, but took the envelope. Her perfectly manicured fingers broke the seal, and she began reading. I watched as her face went from annoyed to confused to absolutely pale. "This must be a mistake," she whispered. "What is it, dear?" Father finally spoke up, reaching for the document. It says the Harrison estate has been purchased. All of it. The house, the properties, everything." Mother's voice trembled. "But that's impossible. We own everything free and clear." James grabbed the paper. "This has to be a joke. Nobody could buy out the Harrison holdings without us knowing." He scanned the document, his face growing increasingly red. "Who the hell is Sunrise Resort Group?" I slowly stood up, reaching into my briefcase. "Actually, I can help explain that." I pulled out a folder containing the complete documentation of my empire. "Sunrise Resort Group is my company, has been for the past 5 years." The silence in the room was absolute. Even James's children looked up from their tablets. "Your company?" Mother's voice was barely a whisper. "Yes. While you all thought I was managing a small resort in Vermont, I was building the largest luxury hospitality group in the world. Those business trips to check on mountain cabins. I was actually overseeing resort acquisitions across 5 continents." I laid out the documents one by one. The Maldives resort that James couldn't get reservations for last summer. Mine. The Swiss ski chateau that Sarah bragged about staying at during Christmas. Also mine. In fact, I paused for effect. That exclusive summer camp the kids are registered for. I bought it last month. James stood up so quickly his chair fell backward. "You're lying. This is some kind of sick joke." I pulled out my phone and opened my private banking app. Current net worth $15.7 billion. Would you like to see the verification from Goldman Sachs? Oh wait, I own a controlling interest in the private banking division that handles your accounts too. Mother's hand shook as she reached for her wine glass. "But why? Why pretend to be?" She gestured vaguely at my carefully crafted modest appearance. "Because 5 years ago, when I pitched my business plan for a revolutionary resort company, you all laughed." James called it a cute hobby. "Dad suggested I get a real job like your brother. And you, Mom, you said I'd never understand real business." I walked to the head of the table. "So I decided to build it all without the Harrison name, without family connections. Every property, every acquisition, every deal, I did it on my own. And now what?" Father asked quietly. "Now we're going to have a very different conversation about the family fortune." I sat down in James's vacated seat. "Thompson, I think we're ready for dinner now." As Thompson began serving the first course, I watched my family trying to process their new reality. James kept opening and closing his mouth like a fish out of water. Sarah was frantically typing on her phone, probably trying to verify everything I'd said. The children for once were completely quiet. Mother finally found her voice. But what about the trust? The inheritance? Oh, we'll definitely need to discuss that." I smiled, unfolding my napkin. "Along with James's outstanding debts, Sarah's secret credit cards, and the interesting tax situation with Dad's offshore accounts. You know about those." Father's face went pale. "I know everything. I had to protect my investments." I took a sip of wine. "But don't worry, I have a plan to fix it all. Though it might require some adjustments to the family dynamic." "What kind of adjustments?" James demanded, trying to sound authoritative despite his obvious panic. "For starters, that Hamptons house you can't afford. It's now part of the Sunrise Resort Group's exclusive vacation property portfolio. But I'm willing to let you stay, as a resident manager, learning the business from the ground up." "A manager, me?" James sputtered. "I'm a senior investment banker." "Not anymore. Your firm's major clients all moved their accounts to my financial services division last week. They just didn't know it was mine." I turned to Mother. "And as for the Harrison estate," she gripped her wine glass tighter. "Yes, it's going to become the flagship property of our new ultra-luxury resort line. Don't worry, you can stay, but we'll need to discuss some changes to the way things are run around here." The rest of dinner passed in a daze of shocked silence and attempted arguments. James threatened lawyers until I reminded him whose money had been paying his legal retainer. Sarah tried to storm out but realized her credit cards had already been frozen. Mother alternated between anger and attempted manipulation, while Father just sat there, occasionally shaking his head in disbelief. As Thompson served dessert, a modest apple pie that would have horrified Mother on any other night, I laid out my terms. The Harrison fortune isn't going to anyone's trust fund. Instead, it's being reinvested in the company, my company. But I'm offering each of you a chance to earn your place in the new family business. Earn. James choked on his pie. We're Harrisons. Exactly. And it's time the Harrison name stood for something more than just inherited wealth and social status. I stood up, straightening my deliberately unfashionable tie. Starting tomorrow, James will report to the Hamptons property for his management training. Sarah, given your interest in event planning, you'll be working with our resort activities team, starting at the entry level. Entry level. Sarah looked like she might faint. Mother, you have a choice. You can either join our client relations department, again, entry level, or retire to the East Wing, which will be converted into a private residence separate from the resort operations. And me, Father finally spoke up. I softened my tone slightly. You'll be working with me, Dad. Directly. It's time you saw what real business looks like in the modern world. The grandfather clock in the hall chimed 9 times. I should go. I have an early morning tomorrow. Actually buying that resort in Vermont I supposedly work at. Thompson will deliver your new contracts and employee handbooks in the morning. As I walked to my deliberately modest car, I heard Mother's voice behind me. Alexander, wait. I turned. Yes, all this time pretending to be less. Why didn't you just tell us? Would you have believed me? Would you have respected what I built if you thought the Harrison name did it all? She had no answer. Good night, Mother. I'll see you at the staff orientation on Monday. Driving away, I finally allowed myself a real smile. Phase 1 was complete. Now came the interesting part, teaching my family the true meaning of success, one humbling lesson at a time. My phone buzzed again. Another billion-dollar deal closing in Dubai. But that could wait. Right now, I had a family to rebuild, a legacy to reshape, and a very interesting future to plan. Thompson texted me as I turned onto the highway. Dinner went as planned, sir. Shall I begin moving their things to the designated areas tomorrow? Yes, I replied. And Thompson, make sure James's new uniform is ready. Size 42 regular. He starts at 6 a.m. sharp. The next few months would be interesting indeed. The morning after the Revelation dinner, I arrived at the Harrison Estate, now the flagship Sunrise Grand Resort, at exactly 5:45 a.m. Thompson had already implemented the first phase of changes, replacing the pretentious Harrison family crest at the entrance with the sleek Sunrise Resort Group logo. I parked my new car, no need for the Camry anymore, and smiled at the sight of James's Ferrari being towed away. A lease default was a lease default, after all. Good morning, sir, Thompson greeted me, tablet in hand. Mr. James arrived 10 minutes ago, quite vocal about his new uniform. Is he in it? After some persuasion involving his frozen accounts, yes. He's waiting in the staff room. I walked into what had previously been our formal parlor, now converted into the resort's employee orientation center. James stood there in the Sunrise Resort Group's standard manager trainee uniform, charcoal gray slacks, white button-down shirt, and a name tag that read James H. Management trainee. This is humiliating, he hissed as I entered. No, brother, this is education. I handed him a thick binder. Your training manual. Today you'll learn how a luxury resort actually operates, from the ground up. I have an MBA from Harvard, and I have a global hospitality empire. Guess which one matters more right now? Before he could respond, Sarah burst into the room, her designer dress replaced by the resort's activities coordinator uniform. My cards are all declined, she practically shrieked. Even my secret ones. Those were canceled last night, I explained calmly. Your new employee account has been set up with a reasonable salary. You'll need to learn budgeting, it's part of the training program. Mother appeared next, looking thoroughly uncomfortable in business casual attire, instead of her usual Chanel. Alexander, this is ridiculous. I've already called the family lawyer. You mean Harrison Legal Services? Funny story, I acquired them last year. Your lawyer now works for me. I checked my watch. Now let's begin orientation. The next hour was a crash course in reality for my family. I pulled up the complete organizational chart of Sunrise Resort Group on the presentation screen. Their jaws dropped as they saw the true scale of what I'd built. This is impossible, James muttered, staring at the numbers. Nobody builds this much this fast. Nobody who relies on the Harrison name and old connections, you mean, I corrected. While you were bragging about your Hampton house, I was negotiating deals across 6 continents. That small Vermont resort you mocked. It was our test facility for new luxury concepts that we then scaled globally. I clicked through to the financial slides. Current group valuation, $15.7 billion. Annual revenue, $4.2 billion. Total properties, 247 luxury resorts, 89 private islands, 15 private jet terminals, and a space tourism division launching next year. Mother sat down heavily. Space tourism. Those weekends I was supposedly hiding in Vermont, I was actually meeting with aerospace engineers in Dubai. I pulled up another slide. We're launching our first orbital luxury hotel in 2026. Sarah raised her hand tentatively. But how did nobody know? Because I operated under different company names, through various holdings. The media called me the ghost billionaires, because nobody knew who was behind the acquisitions. I smiled. Until now. Just then my phone buzzed. The Dubai deal was complete. Excuse me for a moment. I took the call on speaker, letting them hear the details. Mr. Harrison, the Al Nazir family has accepted your offer. The Platinum Sands resort chain is now part of Sunrise Group. Excellent. Transfer the agreed amount, $3.4 billion. James choked on his coffee. Billion, for a desert resort. For the most exclusive resort chain in the Middle East, I corrected. Which, by the way, is where you'll be doing your advanced training next month. Dubai? Sarah perked up. Not as a guest, I clarified. As working staff, James will be learning their service standards, and you'll be apprenticing under their events team. Mother stood up, trying one last time. Now listen here, Alexander. We are Harrisons. We don't work as what, Mother? As hard-working professionals, as people who earn their success. I pulled up another document. Let's talk about why this is happening. James, would you like to explain the real state of your successful investment firm? James went pale. That's private information. Not anymore. Your firm's actual worth is negative $50 million. You've been running a glorified Ponzi scheme to maintain appearances. The only reason you're not in jail is because I bought out your debts last month. Sarah turned to her husband. What is he talking about? And Sarah, I continued, those secret credit cards you thought nobody knew about. $2.1 million in shopping debt. Already handled, in exchange for 5 years of dedicated work in our organization. Mother sat silent, finally understanding the completeness of the change in power. Now, I pulled up the day's schedule. James, you'll be shadowing our head butler today. Yes. Thompson is actually our global service training director. Sarah, you're with the events team preparing for tonight's luxury wedding. Mother, you'll be learning our client relations protocols. And Dad? Mother asked quietly. Father is currently on his way to Dubai with our executive team. He chose to embrace the opportunity to learn. I suggest you all do the same. As they dispersed to their assignments, Thompson approached with another update. Sir, the London acquisition team is ready for your call, and the Space Tourism Division has a prototype presentation at 11. Thank you, Thompson. How's James doing with the uniform? He tried to change back into his suit, but I reminded him about the terms of his debt forgiveness. He's adapting. I spent the next few hours in my new office, formerly the family's grand ballroom, now a state-of-the-art command center for global operations. Screens showed live feeds from resorts worldwide, while holographic displays mapped our expansion plans. Around noon, Sarah burst in, looking frazzled. The bride wants to change the entire flower arrangement 2 hours before the wedding. Perfect learning opportunity, I replied calmly. What's your solution? I don't know. Can't we just tell her no? At a Sunrise resort, never. Think creatively. What resources do we have? She stared blankly. We have a rare flower greenhouse on the roof, part of our farm-to-table program. We have a helicopter pad for emergency deliveries. We have partnerships with every luxury florist in the tri-state area. I leaned forward. Now, what's your solution? For the first time, I saw a glimmer of real thought in her eyes. The afternoon brought more family education. James had apparently tried to pull rank on the housekeeping staff, resulting in a very educational session cleaning the Olympic-sized pool. Mother, to her credit, was actually paying attention in the client relations training, though she kept wincing at having to call guests sir or madam, instead of the other way around. At 3 p.m., I gathered them for another revelation. Time to show you something, I announced, leading them to the helipad. Our newest acquisition. The helicopter landed, and out stepped father, looking energized despite the long flight. Alexander, the Dubai team is incredible. The things they're developing for the space resort. My family stared at him in shock. This was not the quiet, passive man they knew. Dad's been busy, I explained. He's been reviewing our aerospace division all morning. Turns out he has quite a talent for innovative thinking, when given the chance. The zero-gravity restaurant concept is brilliant, father continued, actually smiling. And the orbital view suites. Wait, James interrupted. Dad, you're actually supporting this. Supporting it? I'm helping design it. Alexander showed me the plans last night after you all left. Did you know he's been working on this for years? All those times we thought he was failing, he was actually building the future. Mother sat down on a nearby chair. Richard, please. This isn't what, Victoria? Isn't proper, isn't the Harrison way. Father's voice held a new strength. Our son has built something extraordinary. It's time we all learned from him. As if on cue, my phone buzzed again. Excuse me, the space tourism press conference is starting in Tokyo. I turned on the massive screen in the former dining room. My family watched in stunned silence as Sunrise Resort Group announced its expansion into space tourism. The stock price jumped 20% in minutes. James actually whimpered when he saw the valuation increase. And that, I said as the conference ended, is just the beginning. Now, back to work, everyone. James, I believe the pool deck needs attention. Sarah, how's that wedding flower crisis coming along? Mother, you have a VIP check-in in 10 minutes. As they shuffled off, father stayed behind. Son, I'm sorry we didn't see it sooner. It's not about seeing Dad. It's about building something real. I showed him the latest space hotel designs. Want to help make history? He grinned. A real genuine grin I hadn't seen in years. Lead the way, son. Lead the way. As evening fell over the Harrison estate, the Sunrise Grand Resort, I watched my family slowly, painfully but finally learning what real success looked like. James was actually listening to Thompson's service instructions. Sarah had successfully handled the flower crisis by combining 3 different solutions. And Mother, well, she had managed her first VIP check-in, without mentioning her social connections once. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. And tomorrow would bring new lessons, new challenges, and new opportunities for them to earn their place in my empire. My phone buzzed one last time. The space hotel prototype had passed its first test. Above us, the stars twinkled with promise, and somewhere up there, the future of luxury awaited. But first, I had a family to rebuild, one humbling lesson at a time. 3 months into the new regime, as James bitterly called it, the first real test of our family's transformation arrived in the form of an unexpected crisis. I was reviewing space hotel blueprints with father when Thompson burst into my office, his usual composure slightly rattled. Sir, we have a situation. Your brother James has just approved an unauthorized VIP package for the Sultan of Brunei's family. I set down my tablet. What kind of package? The kind that promises accommodations we don't have, at prices we don't offer, with services we don't provide. Thompson handed me the details. He used his old business contacts to bypass our booking system. Father read over my shoulder, his face darkening. 3 private islands, a fleet of supersonic jets, and exclusive access to properties we haven't even built yet. What was he thinking? He was thinking like the old James, I replied, pulling up our security feeds. Where is he now? In the Hampton properties, sir. Apparently celebrating his major coup with Sarah and some former banking associates. I pressed the intercom. Mother, please come to my office immediately. She arrived looking different from the society maven she'd been 3 months ago. The client relations training had actually begun to sink in. Her designer clothes were now elegantly professional, her manner more genuinely gracious than artificially superior. Alexander, I just heard about James. I tried to stop him, but he thought he could prove himself by landing the biggest fish in the luxury travel pond. I showed her the contract. What he's actually done is risk our entire Asian expansion plan. The Sultan's family arrives in 48 hours, Thompson added. The social media buzz is already building. I stood up, straightening my now impeccable tie. Mother, you've learned our crisis management protocols. What's your assessment? She hesitated only briefly before switching into professional mode. We can't cancel. The reputational damage would be catastrophic. We need to either deliver what was promised or provide an experience so extraordinary they don't notice the differences. Good. I nodded approvingly. Father, thoughts on rapid deployment of resources. We can't build new islands in 48 hours, but we could transform existing properties. He pulled up our asset maps. The space tourism announcement gave us tremendous publicity. We could leverage that. Perfect. Thompson, initiate Protocol Omega, and have James and Sarah brought here immediately. No delays, no excuses. Within 30 minutes, James and Sarah stood before us, their celebration cut short. James still clutched a champagne glass, though his smirk faded when he saw our expressions. Do you understand what you've done? I asked quietly. I landed the biggest client in luxury travel. James protested. The Sultan's family. Do you know what that means for your ego? Yes. For our company. You've created a potential disaster. I projected the contract terms. We don't own 3 private islands in that region. The supersonic jets you promised don't exist yet. And the exclusive preview of our space hotel. It's still in development. Sarah paled. But surely we can just upgrade them to what? Services we don't have. Properties that don't exist. Mother's voice held new authority. This isn't like your old social planning, Sarah. These are binding contracts. The Sultan's representative is already discussing the visit on social media. Thompson reported, expectations are building. James finally showed a flicker of understanding. I thought. No, you didn't think. Father cut in sharply. You tried to play big shot with resources you don't control. Just like your investment firm. I held up my hand for silence. Here's what's going to happen. James, Sarah, you're both going to be part of fixing this. Not as managers, not as family, but as junior staff members under Mother's supervision. Under Mother. Sarah squeaked. She's earned it, I replied. These past 3 months, she's learned our systems, protocols, and standards. While you were plotting this stunt, she was actually building competence. Mother straightened, and I saw real pride replace her old artificial dignity. Thompson, initiate the emergency protocols. Father, you'll coordinate with the space division. We need to create something extraordinary in 48 hours. Mother, you're in charge of James and Sarah. Make them understand every single step of proper luxury service. And you? Father asked. I'm going to do what I do best. Turn a crisis into an opportunity. The next 48 hours were a blur of activity. James and Sarah worked harder than they ever had. Under Mother's now expert supervision. Every time James tried to take a shortcut, she caught him. Every time Sarah attempted to fall back on her old social connections, Mother redirected her to proper protocols. Father turned out to be a genius at innovation under pressure. His idea to transform our closest island property into a gravity-adjusted luxury experience, using advanced hydraulics and visual effects, was brilliant. The Space Tourism Division worked around the clock to create a preview experience that, while not the actual space hotel, would be unforgettable. I worked my own angles, calling in favors, repositioning assets, and creating something unprecedented. By the time the Sultan's family arrived, we were ready. Not with what James had rashly promised, but with something better. Welcome to Sunrise Eclipse. I greeted them personally. We've prepared a unique experience that goes beyond traditional luxury. Instead of 3 mediocre private islands, we offered them one extraordinary one, transformed by Father's team into a preview of future space tourism experiences. Rather than non-existent supersonic jets, we provided the world's first demonstration of our new gravity-adjusted suites, where they could experience various levels of gravitational pull in perfect luxury. James and Sarah, under Mother's watchful eye, worked as regular staff members, learning what real service meant. I watched James bite back his pride. as he handled luggage with perfect precision. Sarah, to her credit, threw herself into guest relations with surprising dedication. The Sultan's family was enchanted. What could have been a disaster became a triumph, but not the way James had intended. At the end of their stay, I gathered the family in my office. "The crisis is over," I announced. "The Sultan's family has not only booked future stays but invested in our space tourism division. But now we need to discuss consequences." James shifted uncomfortably. "I brought them in. You risked everything we've built on a reckless ego play." Mother corrected him, and I saw how much she'd grown. "You're lucky your brother knows how to turn disasters into opportunities." "So here's what happens next," I continued. "James, Sarah, you're both being transferred to our entry-level training program in Dubai. No shortcuts, no special treatment. You'll learn this business properly, from the ground up." "For how long?" Sarah asked quietly. "Until you earn your positions. Could be months, could be years. Meanwhile, Mother will be promoted to Global Client Relations Director. She's proven she understands both luxury and responsibility." Mother's eyes widened. "Alexander, you earned it," Father said proudly. "We all saw how you handled this crisis. And Father will be heading our new innovation division," I added. "His work these past days proved what I suspected. He has a genuine talent for creative problem solving." James stood up. "And what about me? I'm still a Harrison." "Yes, you are," I agreed. "But being a Harrison doesn't mean what it used to. It's not about entitlement anymore. It's about earning your place. Are you ready to actually earn it?" For the first time, I saw real humility in my brother's eyes. "I'll try." "Good. Your flight to Dubai leaves in 3 hours. Thompson will provide your new uniforms and training schedules." As they filed out, Mother lingered. "You knew, didn't you? You knew James would try something like this." "I knew someone would," I replied. "Old habits die hard. But look how far we've come. You and Father embraced change, learned and grew. There's hope for James and Sarah too. And for the Harrison name," I smiled. "The Harrison name is becoming something better than it ever was. Something earned, not inherited." 1 year after the Sultan incident, I stood at the observation deck of our newly completed Space Tourism Command Center, watching my transformed family prepare for the greatest launch in luxury hospitality history. "Final checks complete on Sunrise Orbital Resort," Father announced, his innovation team running through pre-launch protocols. The man who once silently endured Mother's social machinations, now confidently led a division that revolutionized luxury space travel. Mother, elegant in her executive uniform, coordinated with global teams. VIP guest manifests confirmed. All 40 founding members verified for the inaugural journey. Her client relations expertise had evolved far beyond society parties to orchestrating experiences that spanned Earth and space. The most surprising transformation, though, came from the Dubai training program. Service Team Alpha, ready for deployment. James's voice came through the comm system. After 18 months of genuine hard work, he'd earned, truly earned, his position as head of Orbital Guest Experience. Sarah, now our Events Innovation Director, worked alongside him. Orbital celebration sequence, verified and prepared. I smiled, remembering their journey. Dubai had broken them down and rebuilt them. No shortcuts, no special treatment, just hard work, earned respect, and genuine growth. They'd finally understood that true luxury wasn't about showing off wealth. It was about creating unforgettable experiences. T-minus 60 minutes to launch, Thompson announced. "Mr. Harrison, your address to the global team." I stepped up to the podium, facing the assembled staff and video feeds connecting us to Sunrise properties worldwide. 1 year ago, a crisis taught us what real luxury means. Today we're not just launching the world's first orbital resort, we're launching a new understanding of the Harrison legacy. My family stood tall, each in their earned positions. "Some of you know our story," I continued. "How a family built on old money and social status transformed into something greater. Today the Harrison name doesn't represent inherited privilege. It represents innovation, service, and earned excellence." Mother wiped a proud tear. Father squeezed her hand. "In 30 minutes, our first guests will board Sunrise Ascent for their journey to our orbital resort. They chose us not because of our name, but because of what we've built together. Every one of you, from our newest trainee to our most experienced director, is part of this achievement. James and Sarah, on their way to the launch pad, stopped to listen. Their eyes held something new, genuine pride, not arrogance. So as we make history today, remember true luxury isn't about gold fixtures and prestigious names. It's about creating moments that transform lives. That's the new Harrison legacy. The launch was perfect. As our guests experienced Earth's first orbital luxury resort, I gathered my family in the observation lounge. I have an announcement, I said, pulling out 4 small boxes. These aren't gifts. They're something you've earned. Inside each box was a key card and a title. Mother's read, Global Executive Director of Client Experience. Father's Chief Innovation Officer. James's Director of Orbital Operations. And Sarah's Head of Future Experience Design. These positions aren't given because you're Harrisons, I explained. They're given because you've proven yourselves worthy of them. Through failure, James added quietly, fingering his key card. Through growth, Mother corrected. Through actual work, Sarah agreed. Through understanding what matters, Father concluded. Below us, Earth rotated slowly, a reminder of how far we'd come, not just in distance, but in character. So I asked, raising a glass of champagne, ready to help build the next chapter of our legacy. They raised their glasses, not as entitled heirs, but as earned leaders. To the new Harrison dynasty, Mother offered. No, I corrected gently. To earned excellence. As the Earth's lights twinkled below, and our guests experienced luxury beyond their dreams, I watched my transformed family at work. Mother gracefully handling a guest's complex request. Father sketching new innovations on his tablet. James personally ensuring service standards exceeded expectations. Sarah crafting experiences that would become legendary. The Harrison name still opened doors, but now we'd learned how to build those doors ourselves, and that made all the difference. Thompson appeared at my side. Sir, the board is requesting next quarter's expansion plans. I smiled. Tell them the Harrison family is just getting started. This time we'd do it right. Together, earned and real. The end.